Hey, welcome to Gospel Spirit Mission. This is the official podcast of Kingswood Church in Geneseo, Illinois. I'm Chris Ritter. I'm the pastor at Kingswood Church. And one of the goals of this podcast is to give you an opportunity to meet our staff. We have an amazing team here. And this is great timing to talk to Tricia Iest, our Director of Children's Ministry, because we're getting into summer season, and one of our big premier ministries is Vacation Bible School. So we want to get to that. But before we do that, I think, Tricia, people would just love to know your story. Just for people that maybe don't know or maybe are new to the church, you stepped in during a time about a year ago when we really needed someone to come on strong to lead our ministry, and you did that, and then we begged you to stay in this role. So you've been extending that time and have been such a blessing in the role of children's ministry director. So if people haven't had a chance to meet you, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about your story. Start wherever you want to start.
All right. Well, I was born at a very young age, and I hail from California, and that's where I spent the majority of my growing up years, between California and Oregon. So I'm a transplant out here in Illinois, and I get the question often from people I meet out here, like, why did you move out here? And I tell people I really feel like we moved up in the world. But
Good answer.
yes,
Good answer.
yeah. So we're really thankful to be out here. But yeah, so the first part of my story is back on the West Coast. And I was born in Reno, Nevada.
Reno.
Okay. My parents had a short stint of ministry in Reno, and that's where I was born. But both my parents are from the Fresno, California area. So central, right in the center of the state.
Okay.
So kind of spent my grown up years there. And then when I went into middle school, we moved to Oregon. And then I did junior high, high school, and college in Oregon.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of my background. And then after that, I moved around a lot. So, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit as we talk about just more about my life. But I've been a lot of places.
Come from a ministry family, and of course, I know your mom. She's a great part of our church family here. And where did Jesus come into the picture for you personally?
You know, I'm really blessed to have parents that took me to church, I think probably since I was born. So both my mom and dad were born again Christians, and they were always involved in local church wherever they landed. So like I said, we moved a little bit from California up to Oregon, but those were God-inspired. It was a God-inspired move, and we're involved in local church. So I didn't have a choice. I was brought to church, and my parents were committed Christians, and so it is a blessing to be able to say that I grew up in an atmosphere of Christianity, that I knew about God from an early age. And so, yeah, we were involved, and we were parts of very small churches. So you're involved in everything, usually in small churches. Yeah. So, it was always a part of my life. And, I would say, and my mom confirms this, that when I was around 8 years old, I prayed to ask Jesus to come into my heart. And then from that, I grew and I learned about God more and more just through my parents and through church. But, my life kind of takes a different turn in high school, and I decided the grass looked greener on the other side from what I've been taught about what was right and wrong. So I would say I spread my wings a little bit. And anyways, I would say that my true salvation experience, where I feel like I made a committed decision to Christ on my own, was when I was in college, when I was 19 years old.
Okay.
So
Jesus said, girl, you're gonna come back, you're gonna walk with me. And
yeah. And it's hard when when you've been taught from an early age, what the Bible says and what God says. Those are seeds that get planted in your life. But we know that it's God that makes them grow. And so, there was a time where I think I had kind of a hard heart, and he wasn't able to grow those seeds of faith in me until it came to a point. So I remember I was going to junior college, playing volleyball in college in Portland, Oregon, and doing my own thing. College was fun. And I was involved in athletics a lot at this college. And there was a group of athletes. We all hung out in the gym together. And there was a FCA group, a Fellowship of Christian Athletes group. And I started hanging out with these guys. There's a bunch of track athletes that I was hanging around with. And I started hanging around with them and going to these FCA meetings. And I'm not new to church stuff. I went to all the Christian concerts and youth conferences and whatever. But
you knew the lingo.
Yes, I knew the lingo. And I'm pretty sure we were watching like VeggieTale videos or something at these FCA meetings. So they were not like super intense spiritual. But I think what changed for me is that I saw peers, college age peers, have their own committed relationship with the Lord. And God sparked something in my heart, like that's what I wanted. I think I was kind of living on borrowed faith from my parents, and which is good because they modeled, what faith in Christ is. But there comes a point where it has to become your own, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember I was hanging out with one of my friends. Her name was Veronica Pazzo, and we were driving around, and she was just talking about God and how real he was. And I just had this sense of like, I want that. I want what she has. And I just felt like the presence of God come over me in that car. And I just started crying. And she was like, do you want to surrender your life to the Lord? And I said, yes, I do. Like, that was a moment. I was 19 years old, and I just knew like I was not just going to ask Jesus to come to my heart. I was going to lay my life down and surrender to him. And so that happened.
Oh, what a beautiful story.
Yeah.
That journey, and really the children's ministry. I mean, it's like God gets that early claim on our hearts, and sometimes it's through the influence of our parents. And I always think about the verse, train up a child in the way that he should go. And when he's old, doesn't mean he'll never stray or, take some detours, but when he's old, he'll not depart from it. And I think that's a testimony of so many people that get out in the world and they try what's out there, but yet there's this tug. Jesus is reminding us that he has that claim, and he's the one that truly loves us, So that is awesome. Now, somewhere along the way, I know you met a guy named Ryan.
Yeah.
So that is that like the next chapter? Or?
There's a lot of chapters in between
Okay,
from there to there. So if we're gonna go there, I mean, I when I was in college and I felt like this new relationship with Christ, my life completely changed. Like I didn't want the trajectory I was on. I was going to school to become an athletic trainer, and I dropped out of college after my second year of volleyball, and I moved back home, which is about an hour away, and just really started to like pursue the Lord and get in his word, and was part of a church and a youth group. And I finally was like, you know what? I feel like there's another path for me. And that path led me to Texas, to Dallas, Texas, to a Bible college called Christ for the Nations Institute, CFNI. And so I left Oregon and drove down to Texas and went to Bible college because I was so hungry for more of the Lord. And so I spent 2.5 amazing years in Bible college, and I grew so much in my faith, surrounded by 2,000 other young adults, some older, all pursuing God in a very, very rich, Holy Spirit infused atmosphere. So that was awesome. I was part of a huge youth camp every summer called YFN, Youth for the Nations, and learned a lot of leadership skills during that season. And then from there, I wanted to learn Spanish better. And so I hooked up with a church down in Mexico, and I moved to Mexico after college.
Okay.
So my story took me down there, and I was teaching English in a bilingual Christian, small private Christian school that was associated with a church called Fuente de Vida. And that was a strange year for me because I was pursuing what I thought kind of God wanted and it had for me. And I was like, wanted to learn Spanish. I was in a church. I was living with a woman that the church had placed me with, and she didn't speak any English.
Okay.
So,
Immersion there,
yes,
yeah.
it was very much, I was immersed in that. And it was a hard year for me. And I went from this atmosphere, kind of a bubble of like, you're surrounded by so many people that are all pursuing God with all of their lives, all their hearts. And then I kind of get taken out of that and put in, not just out of a really thick Christian culture, but a different culture altogether in Mexico, right? So I was in Mexico. I didn't really speak Spanish very well. I was teaching in this school. I think I was 20, 21 years old. And I didn't go to school to become a teacher, but they were like, well, if you could speak English, you could teach it. Yeah. So I was teaching 4th and 6th grade kids in a school like atmosphere. So I was really out of my element in a lot of ways. And so in that season, in that year of my life, it was really hard because all of a sudden I felt like, where are you, God? Yeah. I couldn't find him. Everything was different and changed. And I was 21, I was young. And I felt like I was in a desert, and I felt like God deserted me. Wow. Like I just didn't feel his presence. And you would think, coming off of this high of Bible college, I would be just, I would have a very strong foundation of faith, but that I got so lost down there. Like I couldn't find God in that situation. I was trying to, but there were so many different things going on that I just was really lost. And so after a year, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore, so I moved back to California. My family had moved back to California in that time. And this is a part of my testimony that I don't know. I feel like God's still showing me things of what happened in that year. And one of my favorite evangelists, Christine Kane, says this thing. She says, when you can't trace God, you can still trust him. And I wish I would have known that then, than I know now. But it just kind of shipwrecked my faith in a sense, where I just felt like God abandoned me when I really needed something in that season. So I go back to California, kind of like purposeless. I don't know what I'm doing. So I decided to see what college had for me again. So college brought me a boyfriend. And then that led me a lot of different directions. And so the next few years of my life, I was a little lost. I felt, I think, hurt. Like I felt like God left me when I went down to Mexico. And so I was kind of like, you know what, I'm gonna pursue just what I want right now. And so that led me down some not good roads for the next few years. But I look back and I see God's hand was still there. He was calling me. He was giving me opportunities to find him. And I started to slowly see like God, okay, God is still there. God is still like connecting with me and wanting me. And for a while there, I was kind of like, I'd gone back to church and I kind of had my foot in church, but I also had my foot in the world. And, the Bible calls that lukewarm living. And that's exactly where I was. And I finally realized like God wants all of me. He wants that all in decision I made when I was 19. He wanted my whole heart again. And I had given my heart away, to the world in a lot of different ways. And so, God was calling me back to him. And then I met my now husband, Ryan. But I was 29 when I met him. So there was a few years in my 20s.
There's a season there. And wilderness seems to be a definite theme in people's story, and you think about Jesus being baptized. This is my beloved son, feeling all the loves and the intimacy and the closeness. And then it's like go into the wilderness, and then the devil's going to be there, and you're going to have to talk to him about things. And then there's that testing. You did it with Israel. It's not a sign of God's displeasure. It's actually a way of, I think, our soul getting refocused
Uh-huh.
on Him and what's really, that we're not just there in the times of abundance, but we know how to navigate when
Yeah.
things are tough. So,
Right.
so
Yes.
I see that in your story as well.
Yeah.
So and then here comes Ryan.
Yeah, here comes Ryan, and I was kind of I was like a, I don't know how to, like a gypsy. I was just kind of flying around when Ryan met me, and
Ryan is not a gypsy. I'm going to
he
say
is not.
not a
He is a
gypsy?
very ground. He was a very grounded farmer when I met him, and I think that's probably why like we connected, because I don't know, maybe he liked the whimsy in my life, and I was like, this guy can pay his bills, you know. I'd been dating these like penniless musicians at that point, and I'm like, this is a real man, and he could pay his bills, and he
You don't
could,
need a
you
drummer.
know.
You need a farmer.
Yes,
you need
yeah. For me, that was God knew that's what I needed, and so yeah, we met through some mutual friends. We were both attending the same church, and yeah, God just brought us together in a really neat way. We both signed up for a singles or a co-ed Bible study, and joined that, and then started
I love your
dating.
marriage. You know, you've got, you know, and Ryan's more reserved and probably knows his way around a spreadsheet, and very structured, and you're more the outgoing
Yes.
person, you know.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of marriages are built on opposites complementing one another and all that. So
Yeah.
your marriage is a beautiful example of that. So how did it get to the Midwest then? Because you guys are both in California.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So Ryan was he was a dairy farmer, so he owned a dairy farm, and
let's shout out to dairy farmers out there. I have a little bit of a dairy background
your milk.
myself. So
yes, you and Ryan had that connection, and I love that.
We can talk Holsteins.
Yep. So so we got married out among the cornfields and the dairy farms in Central California, and started a life. But the dairy economy at that point, it was the year 2010 when we got married, was really up and down, and went through some hard times with the dairy. And just a few short years later, Ryan had to make a hard decision to sell his dairy, and that was. He sold his dairy. We had our first child, Elliot, and we moved all in the span of 2 weeks. So we had major life changes happening just a few years into our marriage. And so we're kind of searching for what was next. And Ryan started to pursue maybe dairying somewhere other than California. And so we started looking at all different places around the United States. For about 2 or 3 years, we were looking. We were looking in Colorado and Nebraska, and I'm all over the place, really. And doors just kept closing and kept closing and kept closing. And for Ryan, he it was kind of a, I wouldn't say midlife crisis, but kind of in that sense, because his value and his worth was,
it's hard for a man to not know what you're doing. And,
So finally, through a mutual friend, we ended up coming out to Illinois. And the really interesting thing is in 2015, Ryan had just kind of didn't know what to do. So he quit his job. We had a bunch of money saved up. We bought an old travel trailer, and we traveled the United States for 2 months. I was pregnant with Rosalind, and Elliot was 2.5 years old, and we just traveled. We just took 2 months off, and part of that traveling led us through some different states where we thought potentially we might move. But one of the stops was Cambridge, Illinois, and where our mutual friend had a family farm, and so it was the fall time, so we pulled through and we stayed with them, and we helped out with their harvest. Just for fun, we're traveling through, and little did we know that exactly 1 year later we would be moving to the same spot. Literally 1 year, like harvest, and then the next year we moved out here in September of 2016. So God just, in that 1 year, he just kind of said, okay, this is where I want you to be. And Ryan said they needed somebody to help run their farm, and we wanted to get out of California. And so that's what brought us out here.
Okay,
so
excellent.
Yeah.
So Ryan had to try the gypsy life just for a
He
couple
did.
months there.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
He liked it.
It was a beautiful country just to travel
Yes.
around and see. And
We loved
we
it.
try to do some of that ourselves. And I
Yeah.
remember when you guys walked through the door at our church. It
Yeah.
was so good to meet you guys. And I could tell you were kind of church shopping and looking and
Yep.
trying to figure it out. So I'm so glad that God brought you our way.
Me too.
So let's the last year you've been serving director of children's ministry, and obviously we're a church with lots of kids and lots of young families and a lot of energy, and so I love the way that you've shepherded that. One good sign was just meeting your own kids, and I tell you what, Elliot is someone that can fact check my sermons. Like sometimes if I say something a little bit that's not quite not quite the way, he knows his Bible so well that he can fact check the pastor, and I know he does a lot of Bible memory and through Wana and then Bible Bowl stuff, and then Rosalind's just as sweet as she can be, and they get to hang out here a lot at the church. Those are mom's and children's ministry directors.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to your kids as well. We've mentioned Ryan.
Thank you.
But we
Yeah.
wanted to give them props as well. So we got the palm trees here because the big ministry stuff is getting ready to happen. So tell us a little bit about VBS.
Yeah.
That's getting ready to kick off.
Well, Vacation Bible School is a big deal. And, I have been involved with VBS pretty much since we kind of started coming to church here. I think 2017 might have been my first year where I stepped in to volunteer.
And last year you got thrown in as director.
Yes, I came in like a week before VBS started. I started this job. So thankfully, Sean King had laid such a wonderful foundation and prepared. So it wasn't that hard. But So I have been involved with VBS for many years here and loved serving. And it was a great week. My kids have been coming here to VBS since they were able, since preschool age. So it is a big outreach. It's a big fun week. A lot of work goes into it. And I'm just excited. Being a director versus just showing up to serve is a big difference. Yeah. So being a director, there's a lot more spreadsheets that you have to have organized.
It's a big team. I mean, I don't know how many volunteers you organize for the VBS week, but dozens and dozens of people to be involved. And so I love seeing all that roll out. So Rainforest Falls is focusing on the nature of God. Yeah. So that's the focus. And this year it's a big change of format from what we've done in the past.
It is. And there's reasons for that. And I think it's good to explore different avenues. And I really felt like the format that we had used was fun and it was good, but I felt like we were creating this big, fun, hyped up environment, and it wasn't always the best environment to really talk about God and the things of God and have good conversations with kids, because it was a week of fun, and fun is important. Kids like to have fun. I'm pretty sure Jesus is fun, right? But also, I really felt like God was saying, like, how effective do you want to be in this? If you want to talk about me, there's certain environments that probably are better for kids to listen, because kids can be easily distracted, right? And so, absolutely. So we decided,
even us old people can be easily distracted.
Yes, that's true. We all can. Yes.
Yeah. So one of the big changes is the time of day. So it's a daytime ministry now, and which I actually think is better for kids. It fits their schedule in life and kind of fills that school gap. Yeah. But a lot of churches can't pull off a daytime VBS for the volunteers, but you're going daytime.
We decided it would be best for kids. They're a little bit fresher and more alert, and we found that kids have been coming in like after their day camps and sport camps and swimming all day, and they were just kind of tanked. And then we throw them into this big crazy stimulating environment, and kids were falling asleep in the middle of like our big rowdy openings. And I'm like, is that the best?
Yeah, they're
Is
worn
that
out.
good for
Yeah,
them?
they come from
So
practice, and
yeah. So we decided to move it during the day. And this year we have a new curriculum. And the one thing I love about the format we're doing is that it takes 5 kids, 5 to 6 kids, and it pairs them with one leader. And I really felt like that was going to be a great way to have good conversations with the kids instead of just like ferrying a group of 60 kids, one big group with a few leaders where you're just really trying to keep them in line. This is going to allow for kids to sit down and actually talk with their leader.
It's almost like a little family group,
It's
right? Because
like,
aren't these like
yeah.
I mean, there's like different ages in the
Yeah,
same
we're
group.
going to do a multi-age crew. That's what we call them, crews. So we'll have a leader, and there'll be 5 to 6 kids, and they'll be kindergarten up through 5th grade. And what this specific VBS curriculum has found is that they really thrive in this kind of environment. Like the older kids get to help the little kids look up to the older ones, and they create this little family, and they travel throughout the week, and they stay in that same crew the whole week. And so they really get to build sweet relationships.
They'll know one another well. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of leveraging in a way the strength of our church, because we are definitely a multi-generational church, and we love that one generation witnessing to the other. We don't think about that in the realm of children's ministry. There's a big difference in life experience between a 5th grader and a kindergartner.
There is.
But there's all those, sibling vibes of helping one another,
Yeah.
and you're kind of leveraging all that, kind of that family feel a little bit more.
I think it's great. And a lot of times what happens, I think, when you get a bunch of kids the same age in one group is there's like this kind of competition that happens.
Yeah.
And so they've found and researched that this kind of eliminates all of that, eliminates behavior problems, and the kids, they wouldn't necessarily maybe choose all these different ones, but they find that new relationships grow, and I think that's super important. So I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this, and I really feel like God is going to bless it. And I just I can't wait to see like what our crew leaders and the people, our volunteers, are going to say from the conversations they have with the kids. So
I can't wait either.
It's going to be neat.
So we're just about at capacity, right? So this isn't
We
like
are.
an appeal to register a bunch more kids, although we could take a few more maybe.
We could. I think we have about 20 spots left. And so, it's always there's a ratio of leaders to kids that we have to keep. And so, we'll see what we get. And I just really feel like I trust the Lord that He's going to bring the kids that need to be here and the volunteers that need to be here, that He's going to manage that, and the right ones will be here that need to be here.
So we're not going for like numbers as much as impact and quality. So like I know a lot of our church family will tune in, and like if they were praying for our VBS week, what would be like some prayer points that you might want people to lift up?
I would say pray for the kids, for their hearts to be open to the gospel, because that's central, right? That we want to get across. Pray for our volunteers, especially our crew leaders that are going to be having those really real in-depth conversations with the kids. Pray that the crew leaders are just filled with the love of God, and pray that they're able to facilitate, conversations.
I'm excited, by the way, about the people, so I get an email when someone does their background check, so I'm getting pinged a lot. Just with new volunteers that are coming in, I could tell that they're signing up and getting trained for VBS, and there's just a lot of great people that are doing their background check and doing their ministry safe so that they're ready to minister with kids.
The thing with VBS is it's a great jumping on point with kids ministry. It's a really fun, unique week, and if you have time to volunteer and step into that, it's not just the kids' lives that get changed during the week of VBS. I think everybody's hearts, what does the Grinch say, grow so many times bigger, because it's tiring, right? You got to lean on the Lord for some energy, but you're pouring into kids, and that's just prime environment for God to pour into you and through you. And so I really feel like volunteers get blessed doubly of what the kids do. And it's a great way to get in and get trained through a ministry safe, and then you're available to step into kids ministry after that. Or if you've never served anywhere, VBS is a fun kind of low commitment to kind of check out kids ministry, and it's a great starting point.
Yeah, we see new
serve.
faces all the time, and it's such a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So anything, I know you have a lot to do besides VBS. So we've got our Sunday morning ministries, other children's ministry environments, and you oversee our nursery director and staff and all that. So anything else you want to just give a shout out to as far or plug in for any other children's ministries?
Yeah. You know, our church is growing, and that's a good thing. And with that comes new families, and what do you say, Pastor? You either
bring one or have one, right?
Bring one or have one. So
we're a very fertile church.
Yes.
I think we have a lot of multiplication.
Yes, we have new babies being born into our nursery, and new kids coming. Sometimes they come because they came to VBS. So our church is growing. So that means that there's always a need for volunteers in kids' church. And what I want to say is that I don't want people to think that kids ministry is like a babysitting service, because it's really not. The same God that's in big church is the same God that's in kids' church. The same Holy Spirit that's working on your hearts in big church is the same Holy Spirit that's working in kids' lives. And so it is a fruitful ministry. It is kingdom work. And it's a great place to step in and serve. I mean, if you like kids even a little bit, you don't have to be only in your prime to work with kids. We need all ages of people. We need the wisdom of our seniors, and we need the energy of our youth. And it is a thriving ministry, and it's growing. And so that just means we need more hands and more volunteers, to step in and to serve a need. And I wanted to say, when we started coming to church here, how I got involved in kids ministry in the first place is my kids were in the nursery and in kids church, or children's church, Sunday school that we called it then. And I just felt like if my kids are here at the church, I should step in and volunteer where my kids, if people are taking care of my kids, I felt like I needed to be there too. So I have been involved with kids ministry since we started coming here, because I just felt like that was the right thing to do. So there's many years of just serving, that, God probably was preparing my heart for, then to step in to lead. And I didn't feel like God called me to be in kids ministry, but he opened a door and I walked in faith. So
absolutely.
that's here I am.
You never know where God's going to end up. Start following the Lord's leading.
Yeah.
And so people could go to kingswoodgeneseo.org, and there's a big children's ministry tab and a VBS tab there if they want to get connected with any of that stuff. And I want to thank Lonnie Couture, who's behind the camera, who's our producer for Gospel Spirit Mission. Last time I was away for be with family during my mother's passing, and Lonnie was on camera with our interns, Josiah and Alexis. So appreciate him keeping the fires lit around here. So thanks, Tricia, for sharing your story and sharing what's going on with kid men, as they say, at Kingswood Church. And we'll see you next time on Gospel Spirit Mission.